It's me, Mr. Miller. We're doing How Are Minerals Identified notes. So, if I give you a handful of minerals, how are you going to identify them? Well, you should first say, well, I'm going to use physical properties to help identify it, Mr. Miller. We learned those physical properties back in Chapter 8, and there are new ones here that will help us identify minerals. So, let's take a look at them. The first physical property that we can use to help identify minerals is color. Now, color is considered probably one of the poorest physical property choices that you could use to identify minerals because so many of them have similar colors and it's hard to choose what color they are. So color is probably the weakest one to use, but it can work. Number 2, streak. The streak refers to the color of the powder a mineral leaves behind when we streak it across a porcelain plate, and it's a very good test to use. 3, luster. Luster is talking about how the light reflects off of the mineral surface, and we can divide the luster into two main things. We can divide it into either metallic luster, so it looks like metal, or non-metallic. So it's pretty easy. You look at it, and if it doesn't have a metallic look to it, you know it's non-metallic, and then of course non-metallic can then be subdivided into other luster, such as glassy. So it's non-metallic and looks kind of glassy, or milky, earthy, silky, waxy, pearly, to name a few of them. Our fourth thing that we can do, our fourth test, would be a Mohs hardness scale test. And it's a scale that's used to rank the hardness of minerals, and it's another very reliable test that we can use to identify minerals. The fifth one is density. We learned that that's mass divided by volume. 6 is the crystal structure. We won't be using that really in here. 7, cleavage. Cleavage is the ability to split easily along the flat surfaces and peel off into pieces. So if I can take the mineral and I can peel off in nice, cool little flat pieces, guess what? That's referring to the cleavage. An example might be mica, and we'll see some examples of that too, the mica in class. Fracture, though, fracture is when it breaks apart. Basically like the word fracture means, to break apart or crumble into jagged pieces. So when you break that rock and it forms these jagged pieces, now that's considered fracture. 9, there are special properties. These special properties include whether or not it has electrical conductivity, whether it's magnetic, whether it's fluorescent under a black light, which we have a few in there that are pretty cool. Or will it respond with an acid test? And with an acid test, we take an acid and we drop it on top of the mineral, and if it starts to bubble, that's a good indication to us that it contains calcite or dolomite, as just some examples. Okay, now I had said up at the top about Mohs hardness scale, and here is the Mohs hardness scale, and you definitely want to make sure you get this copied down. We're going to use it in class. Mohs hardness scale starts at 1, which is the softest mineral, all the way to 10, which is the hardest mineral. Now you can see them all lined up. These are the common minerals we use. 1 is talc, 2 gypsum, 3 calcite, 4 fluorite, 5 apatite, 6 feldspar, 7 quartz, 8 topaz, 9 corundum, and 10 diamond. Now, diamond is the hardest mineral on Earth. Okay? And when we test these minerals, we start with different common tools to help us. So let's say, for example, you look at talc and gypsum there, 1 and 2. We take our fingernail. Our fingernail has a hardness of about a 2 or 2.5. So that means I can take my fingernail and actually scratch talc and probably be able to scratch gypsum too. That means that talc and gypsum cannot scratch my fingernail. No matter how hard you push on it, it's not going to leave a scratch on your fingernail because they're softer. Okay? See my note at the bottom there? It says each object on the list can scratch all items above it. So look at diamond. Diamond will scratch everything above it. It's the hardest and can scratch all minerals. Nothing can scratch diamond but diamond. Alright, so look at feldspar number 6. Feldspar will scratch everything above it. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But it can't scratch anything underneath it. Alright? So over on the side, like a copper coin is 3, so it can scratch calcite. A nail is 4, a steel knife is 6.5, glass is 5.5. And we're going to practice this in class so you can kind of get the hang of how you use the Mohs hardness scale to help you test the mineral's hardness. Alright, that ends our notes.